So I opened this up in Cinema4d. I changed the axis to point up along the y-axis, and I rotated the model up and down so it looked like the anatomy we're used to seeing. Otherwise, it comes in facing down. And what you'll notice is that we should have picked a higher resolution model, because look at all the holes in there. That's not really what we want. Some of this looks okay, but I would have rather had more noise and a smoother bone tissue interface would have been better. But for the purposes of demonstration, I think this will work fine. And so what we're going to do, I don't know how to do this any other way. So I'm going to select polygons on all the structures I know I want. Just doesn't have to be a lot, right? And like I said, this is going to make some, this is going to leave some holes. This isn't going to be perfect, but again, for the purpose of demonstration. All right, so I've selected something like that. And now I'm going to do UW, which is just going to select the contiguous polygons that are connected to those. In other words, this noise out here doesn't share a polygonal edge or a point with any of the ones I selected, so they will not be selected. So then I can invert the selection and hit delete. And this does take a while. This is probably the most time and intensive part of the process. So okay, I have it finished, and what I did was I selected the inverse, and now I'm going to hit delete, and it should delete, and that should lower our polygon count considerably. Let's see here. It takes a while. It's a lot of data. All right, and so now this is what we're left with, and you can see it. There are some of the stuff down here it's not perfect, but for the purposes of demonstration, it'll work fine. So what we're going to do is we're now going to export this as an OBJ file and then import it into ZBrush, or I have this little handy Go Z button, so I'm going to fire up ZBrush and then hit the Go Z button. Select one, okay. So I'm going to select this, hit Go Z, and that's it. Now it's in ZBrush. I can further clean this up. I probably shouldn't get into this because it's going to eat up time, but deleted those. Go under geometry and do modify topology, delete hidden, and that's how you would clean that up. Now we are going to go and let's see here. Dynamesh. Sure, 128. And this is a process of trial and error. I have 128 selected. Looks pretty good to me. And that's our model. Closed all the holes. It probably welded some things together we didn't want welded together. Notice we got a big hole there. That's not right. But nevertheless, but you can still see some of the artifact. You can still see a lot of the detail. You could do it at a higher resolution. And actually, the way to do it is to duplicate the model before you do this. And then hide that second model. Then do the Dynamesh. Maybe we'll do it a little higher. Well, we'll do it to 185 to try to capture more of the detail. I guess you don't really need that. But it happens so fast, and you can... What I'm looking for is that motion artifact here from the scan. Can't really... Yeah, you can see it a little bit. All right, and so now we're going to go down to ZRemesher, target polygon count, and we're just going to hit ZRemesher and wait. Last time it did it pretty quickly, but if it takes a long time, I'll pause the video and do it. So just so you know, the 5 here means 5,000. Okay, so it took 210 seconds for the ZRemesher to finish, and it made a really, what I think is actually a pretty good model, all things considered. The old way of doing this would have required a lot more time on tool, and again, these holes here are really our fault. We should have spent more time and on the initial Z tool, initial model out of ZBrush. Now, I don't know if this is going to work or not because the model came out a little squishy. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn on this other model. So let's name the model 1. So this is the ZRemeshed model. This has the better topology, and then this model is the one straight out of OsiriX. The OsiriX one does not have good topology. It's made of triangles, and it's just a mess. There's junk everywhere. But it has a lot of detail, right? The anterior superior iliac spine comes to a nice crisp edge. The planes are better defined, and it still has a lot of detail. Like you can see some of the striations and foramina in the bones. So what we want to do is we want them both open. We want to select our new mesh, have them both visible, so to speak, and then under project we're going to do project all. Now this is the point at which ZBrush often crashes, so if it crashes I may not remake the movie, but we're just going to hit project and see what happens. And sometimes it's like magic, you have to do it a couple of times to get the right effect. I'm going to hit solo to just look at our new model, and what it did was it really did a good job of, I'm going to undo now, and so this is the original model. See how soft it is, how everything is so soft. Now I'm going to redo it, and it has gone through and picked up that little bit of extra detail from the original OsiriX model. Now what we're going to do is we are going to subdivide this model. Command D will subdivide the model. Just did it one time. So our I think the total points being 1.158 million is the other model. Yeah, that's this model. That's not this one. This model is really low polygon count. So we're still at a really good polygon count here. And so what I did was I subdivided the model with better topology. I make sure both models are active, and now I'm going to do project again. This is going to take a little longer because it's got to project more polygons. And now you see it's capturing more and more of the data. I'm going to do this again. And I'm not going to keep doing this because it's... So now what we've done is we've picked up almost everything. We're starting to pick up artifact. We're starting to see artifact from the scan. That's pretty good, right? We could switch to a different material, something that looked more like bone, and that's it. So that's how it's done. And now we have a Z tool. This wouldn't UV map very well, but you could certainly subdivide it again and do additional sculpting on it, put instrumentation, certainly render it out of ZBrush. ZBrush has a very good render engine. So that's it. That's the deal. So that's how you get from an OsiriX dataset into ZBrush and end up with a model you can use in your work. So I hope that's useful.